This conference will now be recorded.
We've got Michelle on the line, but no picture. Michelle, you want us to look at you? There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think my internet's going a little slow today.
Like that, I can relate. You saw what happened to me last go around. So this is it. We have a quorum here. We have Josh McCabe, place 1, Michelle Ty, place 2, Elaine. Somebody saying something? Okay. We have Mayor Pro Tem Elaine Priest, Councilman 4 Sam Eason, and Councilman 5 Ms. Majors. We will now begin our meeting. The meeting is beginning. Okay, somebody's trying to talk and we're not getting them.
Well, if we could get people to just mute their phones, unless you're talking, that would be helpful.
Okay, this is a regular meeting of the Rhome City Council, Thursday, February the 25th at 6:32 p.m. This is given in accordance with the order of the Governor of Texas issued March 16, 2020, and most recently extended on February the 4th. The City Council of the City of Rhome will conduct its regular scheduled meeting for 6:30 by telephone conference in order to advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing, to slow the spread of the coronavirus. The meeting is closed to person attendance by the public. We're under a temporary suspension of the Open Meeting Act to allow telephone or video conference going on. So that's where we are today. Is anybody not being able to hear or see? Okay, we will go right on. And the public presentations, we have one. Shannon, are you still with us?
Yes,
we have one. Okay, you have anybody for public presentations?
Yes, we have had one person sign up today, and that is Tommy Eason. So Tommy, please start when you're ready.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, all. My name is Tommy Eason, and I live at 1107 Mount Lane. First off, I would like to put a big thank you out to the police department, the public works department, the Rhome Volunteer Fire Department, and the city administrator for all you did during the recent inclement weather. Thank you from all the city. Second, I would like to clear up some misinformation that citizens might be hearing in the near future because of the election time. I have heard rumors that there are some people in this town that would like to get rid of the fire department and let it go ESD, which is Emergency Service District. To me, this would be a great injustice for the citizens of this town. You might be told it will save on city taxes. Sorry, this is not true. The county will charge you an ESD tax on top of the 3 other taxes that you get from the county. It is just moving it to another place, and it might be more than what the city is charging now. So don't be fooled by this tax reduction talk. Also, I want you to know that the ESD firehouse can be moved anywhere in the fire district, which might make the response time for our Rhome citizens longer than it is now. We pay the fire department $132,945 per year. The rest of the funds, they have come from grants, donations, county funding, and fundraisers, which adds up to another $123,000. My big question to people that want to go for an ESD, what will you use the extra $132,945 for? Please do not let this pass. We need our fire department. They did 28 calls in the 10 days of the freeze. They spent 1,000 hours on calls and preparations. They are volunteers. You know, people that don't get paid. We need them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Tommy. Okay, I would, well, I'll start out since I've got my piece of paper here. I want to thank Tommy as well as thank all the same people. Ashley, did you want to say something first? Oh,
No,
okay.
go ahead, and then I'd like to speak after.
Okay. Sincerely thanks to all of our employees, public works, police, fire, administrative staff. We weathered the icy weather and lack of electricity. Today, Wise County is no longer in stage 4. However, Bywell, who is served water by Aqua Texas, is still under a boil notice. Hopefully that'll go away pretty soon. Thanks to all of our citizens for their patience and help the worst of this is behind us. Should you have neighbors that had related damages, let them know to see if they can file a claim with FEMA. Also, most of you guys probably know, but our police chief, Sam Love, has submitted his resignation and asking that his last day be March the 11th. And
I haven't seen you.
I'm sorry, somebody's sneezing. We will say bless you.
I got the for sure confirmation, 100% that he had turned it in yesterday.
I'm sorry, I can't. Is that Josh? Is that you talking?
Mayor,
Nope.
I think it's background noise. It's somebody talking to somebody else with a mic. They're not
Okay.
directly talking to you.
Okay, we will keep on going. But, you know, Sam, we do thank you for your service. And as we process the necessary rules and regs for this, we will be actively recruiting for his replacement. Thanks for your service, Chief. And then, Ashley, did you have an announcement?
Yes. Mine is giving the same thanks. But first, mine is to thank you, Mayor, for keeping us up to date and with your information and being exemplary. Sorry, I'll stop. Can everyone please mute themselves? Can everyone please push mute? I don't know who it is, but can everyone just check to see if they're muted? Thank you. Sorry, but again, just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Mayor, thank you for keeping everyone up to date and as well. And also calling is very personal of you to call and to neighbors. I know of someone you actually called to check on, and that was very kind of you during the difficult time. Also to same as Tommy and yourself, to our fire, police, public works department, city administrator, everyone in our city, as well as the churches all around, is just, it's always nice to see everyone working together. But another thanks during from our last city council meeting is Officer Moore. Want to say a big thank you to Officer Moore for the large drug bust that was the 8.8 pounds of meth that was seized. So a huge, thank you to him for it was 8.8 pounds of meth. So thank you to Officer Moore. And then last night there was another drug bust for Officer Prada. I always get that name wrong, but so if I got it wrong, I apologize. But another thank you to him. So our officers for their exemplary work that they do, it never goes unnoticed. So I think that for all of us, for City Council, just say thank you to them for keeping the drugs off the street and out of our community. So that's all pretty much I have to say. So thank you again, and go on to it. And if everyone, again, just real quick, just to mute their mics, please. Thank you. All right, Sam, you're next.
Sam, did you have something to comment? Oh, I can see your hand now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pile on with this thanks to our people of service, the police department, the fire department, public works, our city staff, city administrator. I really have to focus on public works though, and the fire department, because when you think about, they're actually trying to go out there and fight fires. They had multiple structure fires this week. And so here they are in below freezing, spraying water. Okay. I want you to imagine you're out there in below freezing weather, spraying water in the wind, and you're a volunteer. Okay. These are people that get up in the middle of the night to come help you and save your life. An amazing job, guys. The dedication that you have given to this city it's too much. We don't deserve what we get. Sean, you and the public works guys, understand y'all were working 24 hours a day through this whole effort. Y'all were going out and you were repairing water lines. You were helping people. Big shout out to the public works department. Thank you very much. You guys are fantastic. We're lucky to have you. Cynthia, understand you were putting in 24-hour days too, trying to keep everyone coordinated and keep the whole works going. So thank you to everyone.
I don't think we can thank all of these guys enough. And here's hoping we don't have to see them repeat this anytime soon. But not only is thanks from the council, the town thanks you also. You know, you are our heroes at this point. Did anybody else have an announcement or anything? Okay, then we'll go on to the events for March 2021, because that's right upon us. March the 6th, we have a city council visioning budget workshop, but it's going to have to be virtually at this point. And Cynthia, does it start at 8 or 8:30?
8:30.
8:30. Sprayed, that's what you were going to say, dadgum. So anybody is welcome to come. The workshop will be mostly with the council, but we can certainly hear your input on there. And then we're further into March the 11th and March the 25th are our next regular council meetings. Anybody else have an announcement that we have missed somewhere? Okay, we'll go to our consent agenda. And we only have one item this time. It's the minutes of the City Council's regular session of February the 11th. Do I hear a motion to accept that? Ashley has made a motion to accept it. Second, anybody want to second? Elaine is, okay. So we have a motion and a second. So we will now vote on the acceptance of the consent agenda. Councilman 1, McCabe.
Aye.
Councilman 2, Michelle Ty.
Aye.
Councilman 3, Mayor Pro Tem Priest.
Aye.
Councilman 4, Sam Eason.
Aye.
And lastly, Councilman 5 Majors.
Aye.
So we are approving the consent agenda and we'll go from there. Now we're moving from there into old business, and it's update, discussion and any necessary action regarding the city's third-party building inspector facilities assessment report. Cynthia, that be you.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, you all have been gathering information, considering information, evaluating information on our facilities. And this was the next step in trying to really get a hold of what's going on with our facilities. So you directed staff to contact our third-party inspector. And so they came in and did an inspection of our fire department, our public works, our community center, our senior center, and our police department. And looking, essentially, they were trying to identify specific code deficiencies with those buildings. Even though we presented staff an internal facilities assessment conditions report to you all, this gives a more holistic idea of what the condition of those facilities are, as you all have the difficult task of grappling with our facilities and our space needs and prioritizing those and how we're going to move forward. So you have that all before you. Just as a quick note, you will see a few things that are highlighted on each one. And the reason I went ahead and highlighted those items, those are things, the highlighted items on those reports are what we could probably accomplish in-house. Everything else we would have to contract out for. I did contact a gentleman that was recommended, a general contractor that was recommended by our third-party inspector to see what it would take for him to come out and look at the buildings and give us a price associated with each of those items. He has contacted me back, but of course we were set back with the whole record-breaking winter weather things that happened. So if that's a direction that you all want to still authorize me to have them do that, so you guys have that information to consider in the March 6th visioning budget workshop. I can certainly bring him in and do that. That would be my plan. And really, this is for your information gathering purposes. I think we're going to be able to really accomplish more in that visioning workshop where we have time to kind of roll our sleeves up and really look at what actually this means. From a high level, it's difficult to really put a price to these things. You know, we don't necessarily want to go out for bid on these things, but you want to have an idea of what it would cost to do these things, to help give you that information of, okay, well, if we're going to do this, do we really want to invest, you know, 50 to 100,000 in these items just to bring it up to code when we might have a different plan for where we're going to put various city departments. So that's something to keep in mind. I think really from a high level, you're looking at, you know, quite a bit per building. And the other thing I will just mention, I had offered to tour the facilities. I know some of you are more familiar with them than others. And so I did have a few takers, council members that took me up on that. So the Public Works Director and I toured the facilities today with Council Member Ty and Council Member Majors. That offer's still out there for the rest of you all. If you would like to tour those facilities prior to March 6th, and you haven't, I mean, I know many of you actually probably have, but sometimes after you get these reports, it might be helpful to go back and really look at the facilities. We're happy to do that. So at this point, I think it's information for you to consider as we begin to really kind of plan and prepare for the future. And I think we'll get a lot accomplished in that vein on March 6th.
Have anybody volunteered to bring donuts or goodies if Cynthia's making her get up at 8:30?
I can give you virtual donuts.
Oh, hey, we could try that. Okay. Anybody got any comments on what I hear somebody, but I think that's their ghost.
Elaine can go first with questions.
Okay, Elaine, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just have a question for you, Cynthia. So I noticed when I read these, the list of the code violations and everything. So the gentleman or the person that you would have look at the buildings for a cost analysis, would he be the one then that actually looks at issues such as, is the roof leaking and does it need to be replaced? Is there any signs of health issues like, you know, a mold issue if that roof has been leaking a long time? I think that kind of information will be critical in determining which buildings do we make the biggest, you know, the highest priority. And if we have to move them out, we need to know that. So I just think that we need to know that. And is he the one, or do we ask somebody else, or how does that work?
Well, if you will remember, and we, you know, there's been so much information. We briefly, the Public Works Director, Sean, did briefly mention that TML is looking at that already. Sean, I don't know if you want to expound on that or not, but I don't think we've heard back from them, but Sean's still working with them.
Yes, I did have TML come out, and they did inspect the roof. They did find some damages. We are still waiting on the report. Again, everything is kind of like 2 weeks behind schedule for everybody because of what happened. And so hopefully I'll have something maybe in a week. I called him, got a message into him, and so I'm waiting on his call back. But the roofs have been looked at all facilities. They did say there was a significant damage. Still waiting on what it is and the materials and the cost of getting it repaired.
Sean, which building was that quote might be worse than the others?
The facility, our public works building, and the fire department and the community center are the ones with the most significant damages.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Sean. Sean.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I think she meant Josh.
I was after Elaine.
Yeah. Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
let's start all over. Let's go with Josh, and then we'll move down.
It's the first one. Okay, go with it, Josh. I was after Elaine.
Okay. So Cynthia, does that also include foundation information as far as do we need foundation repairs or anything?
Well, we did identify foundation issues at that PD.
Okay, Elaine. You didn't have, okay, Ashley.
Me. Okay, so if we do, go with the general contractor, do we have to pay him anything?
Well, that's what yes, council member, that's a great question, actually, because that's what I asked him. I said, listen, because our third-party inspector actually recommended somebody that could do it that would not be likely to bid for the actual project. So we didn't run into any issues. And so my question to him was, here's this information. What we need to find out is the price associated with each. And I said, I need to know if that's something that you can do and, you know, put that bid together, or if you're going to charge even just to get that bid together. And I have not heard, actually, I just heard back from him today. Let me just take that back, you know, because that happened right before all this weather hit. And I heard from him this evening, and I have not had a chance to call him back. So I'm not clear on whether or not it would cost us money just to get that information. So I don't have an answer for you at this point.
But to go all
If
the
we
way
were
around.
to go out, if we wanted to do a bid process, then we'd have to, you know, do a bid process. We were trying to avoid that. I just wanted to get some ballpark pricing associated.
Correct. So you want some ballpark pricing. And so, but is he wanting the job, if, you know, the jobs or whatever? Are we going to have to pay him to do? So you don't know that, or you haven't called him. So you haven't called him back.
I've called him and he's called me back, but we have not connected. So I cannot answer that fully.
So right now, I don't think that we should, I don't know, but I don't know about paying someone to do a bid for us or something.
Right.
But that's just mine. So, I think that was my other one. I walked it today. Elaine, there are some other ones. I don't know. Walking it with Sean was kind of helpful. Michelle and I walked it. It was some things. I don't know the last time if you walked it. So eye-opening in some. I mean, the fire department, police department I've been in. It was sad. Fire department, it was eye-opening to see. But you know, restrooms, and they only have one. So that was, and if we're going to use the community center, you know, like some of the things here, personally, I didn't think like we needed to keep a commercial kitchen in the back. That's just mine. So little things here and there that maybe we could discuss later, but there was, you know, but when you go and see it, you know, and walk around and even see it behind and, you know, behind the gates back there, some of the stuff as well. But I think maybe before 6, if everybody has time, before the 6, if everybody has time just to go and look and see, I think it's really good. So it was good for me to go and see it. So, but thanks, Cynthia, if you can, just let us know to see if there's going to be a cost on it, since we're on a very tight budget. So.
Yep. And if there is anybody, again, if there's other council members that would like to, just contact me and we will get that scheduled for y'all.
Anybody else for Cynthia?
I think it's Sam.
Okay, Sam, I'm sorry. I'm getting my eyes checked tomorrow, y'all. So if you should have to wave viciously, please do it.
Perhaps I missed it. Cynthia, do you have some kind of a ballpark estimate of what it would take to get the estimates for fixing all these things?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Do you think that we will know something? Like if this guy got back to you, hopefully it's not going to cost us anything. Do you think that we would know something by the 6th? I mean, what's today, the 25th? Do you think we could probably know something before we all meet on the 6th?
Potentially. I mean, he did say, you know, about him and, you know, one of his folks coming out next week. So that's before the 6th, right before the 6th. So I just gotta, you know, like I said, I got it after 5 o'clock. So I'm gonna call him first thing in the morning. You know, and you know, we can go from there. But I mean, again, we don't want this is not a formal bid. What we're trying to do is just get a ballpark price.
No, but,
So
a
if he's
ballpark price.
constant, if he's going to charge us a lot just to get this ballpark price, that's something else to consider. Just as a reminder, we did get, let you all had our inspector do the reports, and it was $300 per building. So that's $1,500, which I think we try to find somewhere in the budget, but it was not budgeted. So, you know, it's, you know, I know, Sean, I will say this because I'm not a contractor. I have been involved in building actually, but I'm not a contractor, and Sean probably will cringe when I say this, but I think it's safe to say, I mean, when you're looking at this, I mean, you could be looking at anywhere from, you know, 50,000 to 100,000 per building, depending on, you know, some variables just to address these deficiencies. And that's like really a high level ballpark.
That's fair.
I think we have lost the mayor.
Elaine, you're up.
I don't know how my.
So can we move forward, or should we wait, or help me know what we should do here?
Mayor Pro Tem, I mean, I think I have texted her. I think we can move forward. I did see Councilmember Ty had her hand up, so you can probably maybe continue to take some questions here.
Michelle, Ty, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was actually just going to say something. I think that since we have that March 6th meeting, that having all the information might be valuable to us, having, you know, what the estimate is for those buildings. If it's going to be astronomical for them to get those estimates, I understand. I just don't know how much are we able to spend to get that, but I think it would be valuable for that meeting.
Anyone else on this topic? I see no hands up.
No.
All right.
And
Ashley, did you?
No, and I just tried to reach her, and something could have happened. So.
Okay. All right, then we can move forward then. Let me see where we are.
Agenda item C.
All right. Agenda item C is discussion, any necessary action regarding designating a professional engineer firm for the 2021-2022 TX CDBG Community Development Fund application and project implication administered by the Texas Department of Agriculture. Cynthia?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just as an aside, I did get a hold of the mayor. She said for you to go ahead and carry on in her place. She's trying to get back in. She lost internet connectivity.
Okay.
So, yes, this next item, as you know, you all hired Grant Works to assist in that CDBG grant application submission that has a due date of May 3rd. Part of that was doing a request for qualifications for engineers. And so we received 3 responses to that. You were given all of those responses, members, and a summary sheet from the scoring committee. And the committee consisted of the mayor, and the city secretary, and the public works director. And so you have that sheet. We resubmitted it to you. In this packet, you have that sheet with all three qualifications here. The submittals are here. If you have any questions, what we did was we listed them individually, how the individual members of the selection committee scored them. And then we basically took an average of those score rankings. So just as something for you all to consider as far as who you wanted to award that to. So we had Shield Engineering Group, we had Schaumburg and Polk Incorporated, and we had Kimley Horn submit requests, their qualifications. And the overall scoring was Kimley Horn at 99.6, Schaumburg Polk Incorporated at 97, and Shield Engineering Group at 94.4. So that is for you all to look at. You've had a chance to look at the proposals, the qualifications that came in. We do have, I believe we have Lenore on the line if you had any questions for her. Really, at this point, it's up to you all to select who you want. I would just bring to your attention that what you're doing is awarding that professional service contract for the community development block grant.
You're not on mute.
All right, Ashley Majors.
Yeah, real quick, can everyone put their phones on mute? Right now, we have, I think there's like 5 phones that are not on mute. So if you could, please, if you're not speaking, put your phones on mute. Sorry, someone else can go in front of, ahead of me.
Anybody else have questions or discussion?
Am I back on?
All right, then I'll turn it back to Mayor. Can you see?
I can see myself, and that's all. I can't pick up all you guys. So I will continue by telephone, but I can hear the conversations.
Okay, well, Sam Eason has his hand up. Mayor, is it all right if he speaks now?
Yeah, Elaine, go ahead until I figure out how to get everything back on. If you will, go ahead with the meeting. And I'd really appreciate it. It shouldn't delay anybody else.
Okay, glad to help. Sam Eason?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Looking at these scores, all 3 companies scored very high, okay? Because when you look at the low score of 94.4 and then the high score of 99.6, clearly all 3 engineering groups are quite capable. Kimley Horn has the highest score. They also have the greatest knowledge of what our city has already. They won't be starting with a deficiency of having to learn. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we accept Kimley Horn as that engineering company.
All right, there's a motion. Do I have a second? Councilman McCabe has seconded that motion. Any discussion?
One point of clarification, Mayor Pro Tem. This is basically, so as I understand it, the motion is to select Kimley Horn, and it will be predicated on the successful negotiation of a contract, because what we're doing, this is a professional services contract, and so agreement. So you guys are telling us who you want staff to go negotiate. We will bring that contract back to you.
Correct.
As you remember, when we were talking with the grant folks, really what we want to try to do is the biggest thing in this part of the conversation is make sure that those engineers will do essentially this front end work on contingency. so that if we're just like grant works, if we're not successful in the grant, that they're not going to charge us. And if you remember, grant works folks said that most engineers that work on were not successful in obtaining the grant, we wouldn't be responsible for paying them for that front end work. So the bottom line is we will be bringing the actual contract back to you.
All right, any other discussion?
So we need to discuss this more before we make a motion. What you're saying, Cynthia?
Well, now that there's a motion and a second, there's discussion, and I just wanted to make sure you had that information for your discussion. If you wanted to.
Can you tell me, who is Megan and Kristen?
They are with the Kimley Horn. They're the water rate study. They're not the grant folks.
Okay, but they're both with Kimley Horn?
They're subcontractors to Kimley Horn for the water rate study agenda item.
Do we have anyone else with any of the other companies?
We do have Kimley Horn on here. I'm not sure if the other companies are represented on here tonight.
Is there someone, I can't, there's other people on the, I'm gonna have to make sure to jump on before someone makes a motion so we can discuss it prior to making a motion, but I'm not.
You can always discuss after the motion, after the second, Ashley. This is a good time to discuss.
So.
Ashley, did you understand that once a motion is made and seconded, we can still discuss it? We haven't taken our vote yet.
Yeah, people just like to just jump the gun. I think that, looking at all of the other companies, I mean, we've always gone with Kimley Horn. Kimley, we've paid a lot of money to Kimley Horn. So I think, sometimes too, we might want to just see what else is out there. And then looking at some of the other two, I think the one, and I was trying to go back through the stuff, there was one that's only done work that was not in our area. But so Michelle, did you have something while I looked through the water rate? Did you have a question or something? So
yeah.
Ashley, is that all that you wanted to say? Are you through?
I'm looking at the paper right quick. She can ask. I have it here. I just got frustrated.
Okay. Sorry, Michelle Ty.
Okay, I can. There's a caller that's not muted. I can't hear because they keep talking.
Yeah, sorry. I can pull it back up. Let me just see if I know which one it is. You go ahead and I'll see which one.
Okay, so once we get this grant, if we get this grant and the engineering firm starts their work and does whatever they need to do, are all the prices for each engineering firm, is it going to be the same, the cost?
We don't know that yet, because when you do a professional service contract agreement, you're looking at their qualifications and then negotiate that contract. So we don't know exactly what they're going to charge us for that.
And has Kimberly Horn done anything that we would think that we wouldn't want them to do the engineering on this?
Well, as one evaluator, I mean, I can only speak as one evaluator. I think you heard from another council member who made a point. There were some other evaluators. Obviously, I would agree with what the other council member said. They are familiar. They did our water master plan. They did our wastewater master plan. They did our impact fee study. So they are familiar with our wastewater system. And I think most of us realize that the most points that we can get if we submit a water, wastewater, or road project. And I think the general idea and consensus, as I'm understanding from council and from staff, is that we would probably be trying to submit a wastewater project. So it certainly makes sense.
It makes sense that we would go with Kimberly Horn. I just wanted to make sure that I knew everything before I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So
I'm not, okay, again, if any of the callers, there's like 3 or 4 callers, if you can, please mute yourself. So again, I will say it. Can everyone please check their phones and push mute? Please. Thank you. I second guess.
Can y'all hear me at all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can hear y'all, but I can't respond to anything other than this. I'm calling from my phone now. I give up on everything else. So, Elaine, if you'll go ahead, I'll stay mute unless I just think I don't need to.
We gotta love our internet down here.
Well, this time it even told me my internet was lost. So usually it doesn't tell you that. It just goes away.
Yeah, last time it was mine. So, okay, so Michelle, I want to get let go for other bids. We've spent so much, and especially, because of our money situations and stuff. Yes, they do, and they have worked with our city. They are a large company. So there are a couple, but looking at the other companies, I would prefer to maybe look at other ones, because we spent December, I think it was, we spent $40,000 roughly, I think it was, and we've had so much with our wastewater, so there's if good and bad with it. So to be nice about,
but okay, we need to move on. Sam, did you want to say something before we vote?
Yes, I just wanted to point out Michelle Ty was talking about what it would cost. Just as a reminder of what Cynthia said, this is going to be they have to agree to do it on contingency. So if we don't get the grant, the engineering costs it's not going to cost us anything at all. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, let's move forward, please. Place number 1, Josh McCabe.
Aye.
Place number 2, Michelle Ty.
aye.
Place number 3, it's Elaine Priest. Aye. Place number 4, Sam Eason.
Aye.
Place number 5, Ashley Majors.
aye.
All right, that's a unanimous vote. We'll move forward, and Cynthia, City Administrator, if you'll move forward with that negotiations, please. All right, let's move to the next item. This is the update and discussion regarding water and wastewater rate study. Again, City Administrator, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As you know, you all authorized the water rate study with Kimberly Horn. Kimberly Horn completed the water source study and presented that report. I believe that was in November or December of 20. And the second phase of that was that water rate study. They have a subcontractor with NewGen, and those folks have completed their first draft report. They're with us tonight. They have been working with Kimberly Horn and with staff, got them information, and we do have Chris and Megan that are here with us tonight, going to make Chris the presenter, and he will share his screen with you. You all have that report via PowerPoint that was provided in your packet. And I know it's a lot of numbers and things like that. We have been talking with Chris, and he is definitely a passionate communicator. So I have every confidence that he will be able to communicate this in a way that it will make sense, and those numbers will come alive as he begins to speak through his PowerPoint. So Chris, if you would, you do have the presentation because I see it on the screen. Can everybody else see that? Okay, then Chris, go ahead. We see the screen, but your voice is very garbled, so I'm wondering if we've got an internet connectivity.
All right, let's try this. Is that any better?
Yes, a lot better.
Can you hear me? Okay, so you can hear me now? All right. Well, again, Chris Eckert with NewGen Strategies and Solutions. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight, and I apologize for all the technical audio issues there. As Cynthia said, I have Megan Kirkland on the line with me as well. Megan has been the primary analyst on this job with me, so I may have to throw it over to her at some point if I lose internet, so just putting Megan on notice of that. My intent tonight is to provide an update to you on where we are on the water and wastewater rate study. We are not looking for action tonight. Tonight is about education. It's about getting you to understand the current situation, the current performance of your water and wastewater rates, and what future performance may look like under a series of assumptions. There are a lot of numbers in this presentation, and it can be a bit like drinking from a fire hose. I am going to do my absolute best to try and make this as clear as possible. But to the extent you have questions, we will work to address all those questions. Again, this is not the final answer. The final answer will come after we receive feedback and guidance from council, and we begin to determine a path forward on water and wastewater rates. So with that, I'm going to jump right into the presentation. And I want to start tonight, if I can get it to work, there we go. I want to start tonight by talking about some of the key assumptions and rate drivers. Why are we here? Why is it we're looking at rates at this time? One of the primary drivers is growth. And I know you've worked with Kimley Horn on looking at the future and what is to come. As we look at rates, and again, we've worked with Kimley Horn on coming up with these numbers, you can see what is anticipated from now through 2026. As we add customers existing into the service area within the city, there's some growth there. At the same time, we have the Rolling V development and the Prairie Point development, which we understand will be coming online. We need to put in infrastructure to be able to meet the demands that are going to be placed on our system. At the same time, as we've spoken with Cynthia and Sean and with Kimley Horn, we understand that there are some capital improvements that need to be done in order for the city to continue to meet regulatory requirements. As a water and wastewater utility, you have to meet the rules and regulations that are set for you. Those rules and regulations are set by the state. Those are not optional. When the state is looking at those types of improvements, you either do them or you get fined and then you're forced to do them. So it's not an optional situation going forward. There will be capital needs, both with growth and to meet regulatory requirements. And that's the screen that you see right now. In working with staff and working with Kimley Horn, we've looked at what the future capital demands on the system will be. Now, we do understand that there are some revenues that will come from impact fees, from growth. Some growth will cover some of this required capital, but not necessarily all of it. There are limitations in Chapter 395 of the Local Government Code, which governs impact fees, and it says we can't get all of the cost. So where does that cost get covered? It gets covered in water and wastewater rates. On the screen right now, you see what we're anticipating as far as potential capital needs going forward on the system, what we would fund with debt, what we would fund with impact fees. I will note we do have a small error in the bottom right-hand corner for 2026. We show a 0 there. That should be 7.66 million as we look forward. But again, this is just what we're anticipating right now. As we go forward, as we take on these improvements, we will begin to see the impact of that in rates. So obviously you saw a lot of debt issuance on that prior slide. What does that mean in terms of cost to the city? That's what you see here is projected debt payments, principal and interest payments going forward. By 2026, it's anticipated that that annual debt service payment to meet those capital requirements could be almost $1 million. That's an additional $1 million needed in rates every year. Again, we're not there yet. This is crystal ball looking out, but this is potentially what's coming that the city needs to prepare for. Another key assumption or key driver as we look at rates is what we're referring to here as new program O&M. This is operations and maintenance cost or cost increases that we anticipate in the future. We've broken that down into 3 categories: equipment, personnel, and just other expense. In this case, equipment is trucks that were originally purchased in 2008 that are still being used. Those are going to need to be replaced. Personnel, we anticipate that we're going to have to experience increases in both salary as well as benefits for our personnel, especially as we potentially bring on other personnel to meet the demands of the system. So again, just as we add capital, we will also be increasing our O&M expense. And so we need to plan for these on a going forward basis. You've already heard the water supply study from Kimley Horn, but that is another factor or driver in the study we're doing here. We're looking at how we fund or how we pay for future water supply. Right now, you're with Walnut Creek Sud. We're anticipating a possible switch to Upper Trinity. You can see there is a cost differential there, but even as there's a cost differential, there's also a volume differential. The switch anticipated to Upper Trinity, based on our discussions with Kimley Horn, our review of their work, that's not necessarily estimated for the next 4 to 6 years. So that doesn't get baked into our numbers at this time. What we're really looking at right now is capital and O&M. So with that said, we've put together some scenarios, and as we look at these scenarios, we're going to be looking at these different elements, capital and O&M. Now, I want you to, as you sit here as a city council tonight, I want you to take your city council hat off, and I want you to put your board of director hat on, because that's what you are. You are the director of a business. A water and wastewater utility is a business activity of government. When you look at your financial statements, it's actually tracked in a different type of fund called a proprietary or enterprise fund. That's where we capture the business type activities of government. For a business to be successful, revenues must match or exceed expenses. That's how we remain solvent, and that's how we remain in business. And that's how we come in and look at rates. We want to make sure that the anticipated revenue stream is sufficient to cover our cost. That is the basis upon which we are judging if your rates are sufficient or not. So as we look at scenario 1, using our board of directors hat, this, I would, for lack of a better term, I'll call this the status quo. If we did not have capital, if we did not have all of this additional O&M expense, where would we be as a business? And what you see on the screen right now is our estimates based on our assumptions for 2021 and 2022. I want to draw your attention down to the bottom where it says combined. We're going to start with the revenue requirement. What is revenue requirement? A revenue requirement is the revenue we need to generate through rates. Revenues are the revenues we're generating through rates. So on a combined basis for 2021, 2022, we're estimating that the city is fine, that your rates are sufficient. But then I want you to go back and look up above, separately look at water, and then in the middle section, you can look at wastewater. You have a situation right now with your utilities that is very common. We see this in a number of our clients. And what's going on right now, your water utility is performing sufficiently. Water rates are sufficient. Wastewater rates, on the other hand, are not. So what that means is water is subsidizing wastewater service. Now, if all of your customers take water and take wastewater, it's the same pocketbook. And so there's not necessarily an issue there. This does become an issue when you start to have customers that are water only or wastewater only. Again, this is a very common situation, but as we dig deeper into the presentation tonight, you're going to see that as you compare yourself to surrounding communities, you are very much out of balance between water and wastewater. You are the lowest cost provider of wastewater service as we look at the region. And that's by a very large margin. You are the lowest cost provider. So as I look at that information and then I look at this chart, that tells me we are in need of some type of wastewater rate adjustment. So that's scenario one, that's status quo. Again, overall, we're okay, but we are out of balance between water and wastewater. So again, don't necessarily need a rate adjustment here, an overall impact to the monthly bill, but we are in need of some type, or we're in a situation where a wastewater rate adjustment would be called for. So again, that's scenario one. I want to move on now to scenario two. Scenario two is just looking at the impact of capital, not looking at the new program O&M, but just looking at capital. And so you can see again, under just adding capital, water is okay. We're not performing quite as well because our cost has gone up. Wastewater is performing worse now. We have additional wastewater capital. At this time, we would be in need of an increase, particularly a wastewater increase. And so what we've done is we've just come in and just for planning purposes, we've adjusted wastewater rates. And that's what you see on the screen here. We would take the residential minimum bill from $11. We'd recommend that go up to $28.08 to fund capital. You can then see also the impact on the volumetric charge. Now, I understand this swing, these changes in numbers are large. I completely understand that, and that's why we're not recommending any type of adoption tonight. What we need to understand from this presentation is what is council's desire? What are your goals and objectives? How far should we go, and how should that inform both our capital plans and our O&M going forward? But what does that mean to a customer as we start to adjust those rates? In this case, just to fund capital, if we were going to put this plan in place and put those rates into effect, that would be a monthly increase in an average customer's bill using 5,000 gallons. That would be a monthly increase of over $29. That's the impact of capital that we're looking at here. Again, not recommending a change. This is just looking at the impact of those numbers.
Hey, Chris, hold on just a second. Can any callers, please, if you're going to interrupt, will you please put your phone on mute? Please, Chris is doing a presentation. Can you please put your phone on mute? Thank you. Sorry, Chris.
No worries, I appreciate that. As we move on to scenario three, we're not looking at capital here, but we are looking at O&M. What is the impact of replacing those trucks from 2008? What is the impact of increases in staffing or the cost of staffing? As we look at even replacing computers, what is the cost of that? As we look at the impact of that new O&M, now our water rates would be insufficient. We would need both a water rate increase as well as a wastewater rate increase. And so again, just for planning purposes, not saying that this is the number, just looking for planning purposes, you can see there would be a slight increase on water. It's not substantial, but there would be an increase there in those rates. However, because we are so far behind on wastewater, you can see what would have to happen to the wastewater bill. Again, that rate would go up. And then ultimately, what's the impact to a 5,000 gallon customer? It is a substantial impact, going from $77.29 to $114.23 on a monthly basis. Now, we've looked at the impact of capital under scenario 2. We've looked at the impact of O&M under scenario 3. We're going to put those together now. And again, these numbers are large. We are not recommending action tonight. This is for planning purposes, and so that the council has an understanding of the impact of what may be coming. As we put together capital, as we put together O&M, we are in need of a water and wastewater rate adjustment. And you can see how those numbers mesh here. Again, for 2022, if we put this capital plan in place, if we do what is needed on O&M, we are short approximately, estimated right now by the end of 2022, $662,000. That is a big hill to climb. We need to start climbing that hill as soon as possible. You can see on the slide here, this is slide 22. If you're following along in the agenda packet, this would be the adjustment to water. Again, not as substantial on water, but there would be a substantial wastewater rate adjustment that's needed. Ultimately, that does have an impact on the monthly customer bill. So again, a lot of assumptions going into this, a lot of estimations about the future. We're going to have to monitor this as things go forward to determine what is needed and when. But I do want to talk about how the city compares within the region right now. You heard me talk about earlier that you are the lowest cost wastewater provider in the region. What does that mean? Again, we've seen through this. This is just a recap, a summary of those different scenarios. And you're going to see these scenarios on some charts. And so I'm going to go right into those charts. Now, every council I talk to, every council that I show this type of chart to, I want to caution you. This is not an apples to apples comparison. Every community is different. Every community has different water sources, different wastewater treatment methods. You have different revenue sources. You fund your utility in different ways. So there's any number of reasons why this chart looks like it does. But I want to draw your attention to the bottom of this chart. This is for the minimum bill before any service is taken here. This is, well, for Rome, this actually includes 2,000 gallons because that's your rate structure. But right now, currently, a minimum bill in the city is $45.31. But if you look at that blue bar, the blue component is water. The green component is wastewater. You are the lowest on wastewater. The next person or next city on this list, the next community, is Justin at $18. The next lowest provider is $7 a month higher than you in the minimum bill. This is why wastewater is what it is right now. This is why we look at this. We look at the performance that's estimated. We look at this chart. A wastewater change is called for. You are behind the curve on wastewater right now. Now you can see what happens as we start to layer these scenarios on here. Obviously, if we have to bite off all of this capital, if we have to bite off all the O&M, it does put you at the top of this chart. That doesn't mean that's where you would stay. All of these other communities are going through the same process where they evaluate rates. They adjust pricing to generate the resources needed. But again, this is just the minimum bill. I'm going to move on and show you this comparison. This is a 5,000 gallon customer. when you take 5,000 gallons of service. Again, the current Rhome customer, assuming 5,000 gallons of water, 5,000 gallons of sewage, that customer would pay $77.29 a month right now. You are third from the bottom as we look at surrounding communities. But again, I want to point out wastewater, $18.89. The next lowest community as you start to add in usage is Reno at $27. So again, I'm pointing this out. I want you to understand we have a wastewater rate issue that needs attention. So going forward, as we look at your rate design right now, the way you have designed rates is regardless of the size of the water meter, a customer pays the same rate. So I'm going to back up right quick. This minimum bill, this $34.31, regardless of the size of your water meter, you pay $34.31. As we look at best practices in terms of pricing, the city may want to consider adjusting that pricing such that a larger water meter would pay more every month than a smaller water meter. Why is that? A larger water meter can place a greater demand on the system. The demand they place on the system drives the capital that's needed on the system. So if you're trying to align pricing with cost, you may want to come in and adjust that minimum bill such that it is larger for larger meters. At the same time, you heard me say earlier, right now you have 2,000 gallons within your minimum bill. The Texas Water Conservation Implementation Task Force, this is a state body, they put out what's called the Best Management Practices Guide for Water Conservation. They actually recommend that you do not include any volume allotment in the minimum bill. They say it runs counter to conservation. There are lots of advantages to putting volumes in the minimum bill. It allows for a lifeline level of use, a lower volume use for lower volume customers. But this may be an adjustment you want to make going forward. It really depends on the council's pricing goals and objectives. So on the next screen, you can see as we back up just a little bit and talk about this meter size pricing, what does that mean? When I talk about meter size pricing, on that far right-hand column, the way this would work is a 5/8 inch meter customer, that would be our base. A 3/4 inch minimum bill would be 1.5 times whatever the council sets for a 5/8 inch meter. For a 1 inch meter, it would be 2.5 times. For a 1 and a 1.5 inch meter, it'd be 5 times. Now, this is not going to generate substantially more revenue for the city because most of your connections are at that 5/8 and 3/4 inch level. As you look at that 1 inch, 1.5 inch, the 2 inch, at that point, you're starting to look at potentially schools, businesses, and so that can have a counter effect on what you're trying to accomplish in this type of pricing. So again, if we go this direction, we just want to be careful as to who we're impacting and how, but charging by meter size does align revenue with cost. So again, I've thrown a lot at you tonight, and I appreciate your patience with me. I know you need more time to review this. I know you probably have many questions. As I've said before, I think an immediate adjustment to your wastewater rates is warranted, but you as the board of directors setting the pricing for your business, that is in your hands as we look going forward. I think you are in a position that you should adjust rates, particularly on the wastewater side. And I think a rate adjustment, if you don't do it now, at minimum, I think you need to adjust it going into next fiscal year. So that would be starting in October of 2021. To really nail down what we might want to look at, though, we need direction. I understand that you have a budget workshop session coming up. This would be a fantastic topic of discussion at that workshop. What is it you as a council desire? What is it you're prepared to fund, and how do you want to fund that? But even as you take this first step in rates, This is not a one-time process. We don't simply look at rates and forget it and go on. Looking at rates is a regular process. Just as pricing goes up at the grocery store and goes up at the department store, they're always looking at pricing. You, as the board of directors, also need to be looking at pricing for your service regularly, and you need to adjust it to ensure that you have sufficient resources for your business. So again, I thank you for your patience with me tonight. Again, I understand there are lots of numbers, but I'm happy to cover any questions that you might have.
First, Chris, thank you so much. You did very well. Sorry for the interruptions. I have a few questions. At the beginning, you said we only had cash. Sorry, it was at the beginning. Was one of my questions. 59 days on hand. Cash on hand, we only had 59 days on hand, and we had debt was 0.4721.03. Sorry, it was at the very beginning.
No, let me get back to the right page here. Here we go.
Sorry.
No, that you're on page 9. That is perfectly fine.
Yeah, that was at the very beginning.
So again, as we look at slide 9, what we're saying here is based on our projections, our estimations, you're approximately 59, 58 days cash on hand. We understand the city has a target or wants to try to target 60 days. Let me talk about debt service coverage if I can. A 1 times debt service coverage means that when you take revenue less O&M, if you're at a 1 times coverage, you're able to cover your debt. Ideally, we want to be, we can be no lower than 1, but we want to be slightly above 1 if we can. That gives us a little margin in case we have a very wet period and water consumption is not what we anticipate. You are right on that bubble right now.
I can hear you.
So, okay. So is that typically normal to debt on hand, or should we be more than 50? What is compared to other cities? I guess, yeah, target 6 star, I guess, off track.
Yeah, starting with the days cash on hand target, I would say no lower than 45. Absolutely the lowest you can go. When you're running a utility, it's just like running a business. It's just like personal finance. You don't want to go around every day with $0 in your bank account. The city is the same way, particularly with regards to utilities, because when you look at cash flow from a utility perspective, you're going to generate more revenue in the summer than you do the winter, but your bills come in year round. So as we look at that, I think 60 days is a good target. Ideally, I'd love to see that go closer to 90 days, but we've got other issues we need to address right now, just in overall sufficiency. At the same time, on debt service coverage, minimum 1, I'd love to see that closer to 1.1.
Okay. Right now, going through this, I'm thinking about money, so at least we have something on there.
Absolutely.
Talking about, I know going forward, I am one of those that has the 5,000, I think closer to 5,000, I know, especially in the summertime. So I know that I would be affected by my bill going up if we did go to those. Yes. So one of the scenarios, the wastewater with us being so low, is it because we have a couple, for instance, a couple of like, say our Bywell, because they're on Aqua America, Aqua Texas or whatever? Is it because they're not on in our water? We do not provide them water. Is that the reason why?
I can't necessarily pinpoint a reason for you other than I imagine you've always been behind. I think the rate has just been set too low. And that's very common. As I said earlier, we see that for a number of our clients. Citizens often understand paying for water because they're getting something. They're getting a commodity.
Okay.
Wastewater, it's hard to understand why we pay so much for wastewater. And if you've never toured a wastewater treatment plant, I highly recommend you go. When you start to understand the intricacies and the effort that goes into treating wastewater, you begin to grasp why it's so expensive. But it's a common issue that we see.
Okay, now I'm learning. Now, so which a lot of people liked it, that we have the eye on water, and they were able to see, especially with us being on the stage 4. Now, if we went to later on down the road, if we did go to the meters, if we did switch out the meters, would that affect? I mean, would it affect if we did going to a larger meter? How would it cost the city to switch all of these out? And sorry, now we're on page 30. Sorry, I'm all over the page.
No, this is fantastic. I do want to be clear between, so what I'm referring to here is pricing the minimum bill. I'm recommending that the minimum bill go up. As far as changing out meters specific to that point, we're not necessarily addressing changing out meters here. This is just how we price service for a meter.
Oh, okay, yes, sir. Okay. All right. Well, I just want to be clear on that one because everybody, huge, they loved it because, when you kind of tell everybody when they can't shower, so you have to tell them they're on 500, they were like, oh, wow, I don't use 500. I can shower a little bit. You can take a longer shower. So they were excited.
Understood.
Well, fantastic. Well, I thank you. You were amazing. So I'll send it off to Sam, but thank you so much. So
no, thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been terribly enlightening. One of my questions you just answered with the last one about the meter size. So that's just establishing minimum bill, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay, thank you. My other question has to do with the option 4. I'd like to get back to the definition of option 4. Is that saying that, and we're going to also upgrade all the public works equipment?
So yes, what option 4 is, it's taking the capital plan, it's taking the O&M plan and saying, we're going to do everything. We're going to do everything that our business needs right now. We understand that that may not be realistic at this time, but I wanted to show you what that ultimately means to the customer.
Give me some high level. When you say everything, I hate that word everything. I hate the words all. Give me some, is everything going to be, and we expand our wastewater treatment facilities, we continue to upgrade those. We're going to get the new trucks that you said we hadn't bought since 2008. Give me a little bit more detail of what the word everything means.
So everything starts with our capital slide. It assumes that you would go in and issue debt in the amount of, and I don't have this added up, but I believe it's about $30 million between now and 2026. Everything assumes that you're going to have principal and interest payments that go all the way up to almost $1 million by 2026. That would be your annual cost. Everything assumes that you're going to have these equipment purchases over the next 3 years, that you're going to spend $306,000 in 2022 to replace those trucks from 2008, to replace computers, that you're going to increase your costs to pay your personnel, that you're going to incur all of these other expenses that you see here. That is the whole enchilada. It's the full capital plan. It's the full O&M plan.
And so if we don't do the whole enchilada, then we're really incurring significant risk of not having sufficient personnel and not having sufficient equipment to be able to provide services.
You are either impacting your near-term reliability of service, or you are simply kicking the can down the road. You're pushing cost off in the future, because ultimately you are going to have to do these items in order to have a reliable business.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I see the mayor's picture over there, and so I'll turn the meeting back to her. But I would just like to say for those that are listening that Bywell does not use Rhome's wastewater system, and neither does Chisholm. The way that when Bywell, I think, are on septic system, basically. Chisholm was built where I'm not going to be crude, but stuff runs downhill, and it runs down to Newark for this subdivision. And so they didn't, I guess the developer didn't want to install, lift so they could take it uphill to Rome. So actually those two subdivisions get their water from Rome, but we do not get wastewater. We're not on the wastewater system. So just as a lot of folks don't know that about those two subdivisions, but that is the case. That's my only comment about that.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Well,
Thank
just
you.
a point of clarification, Bywell does not get its water or wastewater from Rome. They're Aqua Texas for their water and septic for their sewer.
Okay. The chair's going to say that.
Mayor, you're muted. We can't hear you.
And that was my fault. Bywell residents basically use the aerobic system. So they pay for all of that charges, and then they pay Aqua Texas, as your ladies were saying, for their water use. That's if it gets where they don't have to boil anymore. Tonight they're still boiling, but life is getting better for them. So if no one has anything else, and Elaine, I'll send roses or food or something. I really appreciate this. I need your internet up here on the thing. The last thing we've got on there is, well, not the last, but E is discussion of the Stowe Megadon, and I think they have named it, and any necessary action for approving a local disaster declaration. And you have one in your packet that basically says, here we are, here's our declaration. And this may help people applying for help from FEMA.
Mayor. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. We did send out an updated version of the draft declaration this afternoon that Carvin revised and recommended for approval.
Did all y'all get that revised one?
It was a little after 4 that it was sent.
Do I have a recommendation or a motion that we accept that disaster declaration? Elaine? Elaine's one and Ashley has seconded. So do we have any discussion before we take a vote? Okay, Councilman McCabe.
Aye.
Councilman Ty.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Priest.
Aye.
Councilman Easton.
Aye.
And Councilman Majors.
Aye.
Okay, so we have a declaration for disaster, and maybe this will actually help his people that were really affected by this thing file for assistance or help. Okay, we're moving on down to discussion and necessary action regarding a proclamation of appreciation to the fire, public works, police, city hall, and county first responders for their service to the city of Rome during our Snow Power Megadon. Do we have anybody wanting to make a motion for that or discuss it? Josh, you want to read
Yes,
what, if this is approved, you want to read it?
Well, I had something I wanted to say on this as well. I
Okay.
did bring this agenda item forward. Like many of y'all have already said, we can't thank our city staff and everybody else enough. I felt that this was just something a little bit extra that we could do. Last week we had a natural disaster, which we normally don't see here in Texas. And due to the nature of the weather, our city staff and volunteers were put to the test, many of who had to leave their families in a time of need to provide for the community, and many people that they don't even know. I, of all people, understand what it takes to leave your family behind when they need you most when duty calls. Our fire department slept at the firehouse overnight to ensure full staffing in case of emergency calls, which they most definitely have, because we've all seen the photo of Chief Fitch's frozen helmet. They braved the cold to continue their duties, assisting in county calls, major leaks, structure fires, and things of the like. Our police department attended many calls as well due to accidents and welfare checks on those without power and water. Our public works who worked around the clock due to frozen pipes, water leaks, and shut down water plants beyond human control. Our city staff who worked tirelessly to continue to disseminate information to our citizens and partnering city neighbors. It was truly a team effort, and our team pulled together in this time of need. We were able to mitigate some problems, and Rome fared unbelievably well compared to the larger DFW area and Metroplex. Chief Fitch and Cynthia were even able to partner with the Wise County Emergency Services to provide a warning station at the fire department for their company. I'm proud to work with these individuals, and I'm honored to have them as to the go-to people of this city for emergency situations and everyday needs. So Cynthia, Chief Fitch, Chief Love, and Sean, please accept my heartfelt thanks and gratitude for all you and your departments did. And please extend my personal thanks to each of your workers and volunteers. Bravo Zulu to all of you. Did anyone else have anything to say before I read the proclamation?
Ashley, you're muted.
Michelle, do you have something to say? Oh. Just, I agree to say thank you. And then I guess before the end of the meeting, to say thank you. And it was nice to see Wise County dropping off water at the fire station as well for the firefighters and their effortless work that doesn't ever go unnoticed. So thank you, and hopefully for the water that we can also donate to BioWell as well. So, but thank you so much, and thank you, Josh, for speaking on behalf of all of us.
Anybody before Josh reads the proclamation?
Yeah, can I just say one thing? I mean, I just want to, again, I mean, everybody said it, but I do want to express my appreciation to the staff, to Chief Fitch for taking leadership role in this whole event, and our Public Works Director, Sean Densmore, and our Police Chief, Sam Love. They definitely went above and beyond the call of duty. And partnering in an instance like this, and with an event like this of this magnitude, nothing happens by itself. So it takes a team coordinating together to make these things happen. And I'm so proud of everybody, and everybody has great relationships with the county. Most notably, I will point out, I'm new here, but Chief Fitch, who has very well coordinated with the county and Public Works. I mean, we went, you know, they got water. The county got water from even before the county got water. I mean, I know you all know this because I included it in my weekly report, but Chief Fish came up with a bottled water distribution plan as contingency planning. There's a lot of contingency planning that happened behind the scenes that wasn't necessarily rolled out because we were able to kind of avoid the worst case scenario, particularly in Rome, but they were developed nonetheless. And so in that planning, he actually already got some water donated that we do have. And then of course FEMA came with a bunch of water to the county, and the county distributed that. And we went up and they actually they delivered it to us. But many cities went up and got it yesterday, golly, the day before, I can't even remember. But so I really want to give kudos. We do have a bottled water distribution plan that Chief Fish has developed already, and we probably do, even though by and large the Rome residents came through, and I really want to commend all of our residents because so many came through and conserved water. And that was our goal, is really just reduce your water consumption so we don't run out of water, so we don't lose pressure, so we don't have to do a boil water notice. And I had so many messages going back and forth on Facebook of people, you know, wanting to do their part. How can I help? Okay, I don't want to do washing here. I don't want to take a shower here. And so we can't thank them enough for, you know, conserving their water, because that's really what tipped the scale, was our Rome residents. So kudos to our Rome residents. We, I know Chief Fish will be talking more about rolling out that bottled water distribution plan for our Biowell residents that, as the mayor and Ashley have noted, are still on that boil water notice because they get their water through Aquatex. So thank you for that.
Anyone else? Hey, Josh, go for it.
City of Rome, Texas, proclamation of appreciation. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Rome, Texas, to fire, public works, police, city hall staff, and county first responders for their service to the City of Rome during Snow Powermageddon 2021. Whereas the City Council of the City of Rome, Texas, wish to express their sincere appreciation to fire, public works, police, city hall staff, and county first responders. And whereas Snow Powermageddon February 2021 was a multiple day historical event with record-breaking low temps, snow, and ice. And whereas fire, public works, police, city hall staff, and first responders responded in concert, monitoring, assessing, coordinating, and reporting on a critical and fluid situation. And whereas fire, police, public works, city hall staff, and first responders' dedication and loyalty to Rome and its citizens has been instrumental in mitigating impacts and therefore contributing to the safety and welfare of citizens and city infrastructure of Rome. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Rome, Texas hereby express their heartfelt appreciation to fire, public works, police, city staff, and city and county first responders' unselfish contributions and dedicated service going above and beyond in difficult circumstances to the City of Rome and its citizens. Passed and approved by the City Council of the City of Rome, Texas, this 25th day of February 2021. And I would like to make a motion to approve this.
Do we have a second? Well, gosh, we got a bunch of seconds, so everybody likes it. So Sam, you've been quiet. You're on my left side, so let's take Sam's second. Are we ready to call for a vote? Any more discussion? Okay.
Yes, I'd like to say one more thing, please.
Yes, sir.
Josh, I'm really glad that you thought of this, and you're representing us well. This is good that we recognize them formally.
Anybody else? Okay, let's call for a vote. Councilman McCabe,
Aye.
Michelle Ty, Councilman number 2,
Aye.
Elaine Priest, Mayor Pro Tem,
Aye.
Sam Eason, place
Aye.
4.
Aye.
And yes, and Ashley Majors, place 5.
Aye.
Motion approved unanimously. And then we're going on. And do we have anything before we vote to adjourn? Any items for next, either the 6th of March or the next council meeting that we would need to put on for that? Anybody? Ashley, are you saying no? Okay.
I'll let the guys go first. I'll let Sam and Josh go.
Well, they are not even flagging their, okay, Josh is, yes, sir.
Yes, due to the increase of social media usage by the city, I would like to see if our city administrator can bring back some sort of social media policy or plan for us to see about putting in place.
Tell me more what you're speaking of, Josh.
Most companies or cities, they will have some sort of social media policy about who runs social media, who puts out what, just all of that information. So I think if we're going to start using social media more, we need to make sure we have something in place on how and when and why and where to use it to answer all the questions.
Very good.
Okay, well, so social media for the city or organized, how am I going to write this? What's your recommendation?
That the city administrator drafts a social media policy for review, discussion, and action.
Okay. Anybody else?
Add to that to the mayor, because I was going to put in place the same thing. So the mayor
Okay.
and the city administrator put something in place that they too, because there's too much confusion of too many people posting on social media that are too many people.
Let's discuss that at the next meeting, Ashley.
That's what I'm trying to say it what he's saying. So yes, so that was it. I don't know how to say it other than trying to spit it out. So yes, thank you, Sam. So, all right, go ahead and then.
Next, Sam.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to get a update on how it's going, how we're moving forward with securing a long-term water source and options other than Walnut Creek.
So you want an update basically on where we stand?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
And Sam, yours is good. Mine's just signs on that one.
I would like to add planning for another disaster. God forbid, hope it doesn't happen, but we probably need a little bit more of a roadmap on what we will do and how it will happen.
Sam, I mean, Elaine or Michelle, any?
Okay, now y'all know what happens next. We vote to see if it's time to adjourn. Do I hear
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And Ashley seconds it, and Michelle, a whole lot of people ready to go. Okay. Anybody want to call for a vote? And before we talk, let's just go with Josh McCabe, place 1.
Aye.
Michelle Ty, place 2.
Aye.
Elaine Priest, Mayor Pro Tem, place 3.
Aye.
Sam Eason, place 4.
Aye.
And Ashley Majors, place 5.
Aye, and thank y'all. Have a good night.
And I apologize for leaving y'all. I even got a message this time that said internet failed. usually it just blacks me out, you know. So I do appreciate, Elaine, I really appreciate your assistance. So
You're very welcome.
we are out of here.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
y'all.
night.